So this is a healing about a woman in her late 20s who came to me saying that she really needed to lose weight, and also that she was really sort of stuck in her life. She was trying a few different careers and business opportunities, but really couldn't make progress. And she was also looking for relationship, you know. So when I tuned in for her aura, I saw a whole bunch of things right away, mostly related to her mother. And she didn't really tell me, that there was a big mother kind of issue going on here, but I saw it as soon as I tuned in for her aura. So immediately I was drawn to the fourth layer of my client's aura, the people layer, I call it, where we store our interactions with people. And I could see her mother in there. I'm almost positive it was a mother. And later on, of course, I validated that this was a big a mother issue. She didn't tell me that, but when I saw it in her aura and spoke to her about it later, she was like, "Yeah, that's my mother." So what I saw in the fourth layer is this really, really animated, attractive mother energy, and just talking, and just like really overbearing and overwhelming, and just sort of being all over my client energetically. Now, my client said that she had just moved away from living at home and finally got her own apartment in the city. But it wasn't that long ago, and as I said, all of that energy from what I assumed was her mother was still very much prevalent in my client's fourth layer of the aura. And then I went down to the third layer of the mental body, and I could just see that the mother was basically programming all of this kind of codependent attachment. You should do this, and you're not doing this enough, and I didn't like that last boyfriend of yours, and so when are you going to bring him home, and call me, all of this kind of codependent kind of stuff. Now that she, of course, moved away from home, finally the mother's like, I want to hear from you. You better call me. I haven't heard from you, etc., etc. And then finally, I went down to the second layer of my client's aura, the emotional body. And that's when I really sort of understood quite a lot of what was going on. Now, you would think that my client would be really, really sick and tired of this overbearing, codependent, needy, really mother energy. But it's not really what I saw when I was looking deeply into my client's aura. I actually saw that my client had a lot of love and a lot of affection for her mother. But the fact that she moved away from home, and she realized at some level that her weight issue, and the fact that she couldn't find a man for a relationship, and that she wasn't moving forward in her life, that there was something about that codependent, overbearing, needy mother energy that was keeping her from moving forward in these areas. And so, but still, nonetheless, I looked at my client's heart chakra, and there was a lot of love coming from her heart. She just had, she couldn't hurt her mother. She couldn't hurt her mother's feelings. She couldn't, get angry at her mother. She couldn't tell her mother to, stop controlling her, or, she couldn't tell her mother to stop, calling her all the time and asking her to call her all the time. She couldn't bring herself to do it because she had a lot. She had that love. Also, the solar plexus chakra as well, which I believe is largely our connection to people, connectedness. And again, she had this really strong kind of connection to her mother's. It's like a tether. She was tethered like a rope, connected, and she just, couldn't really pull away. It was very, very strong attachment. And the third eye, that was the funny thing, because when I tuned into the third eye, it's like my client's brain was like frazzled and confused, and all of those conflicting thoughts in the brain, in the third eye chakra. How do I break away? Yet, I need my mother. I love talking to her, but she's controlling me. She's keeping me from moving forward. And God, she talks a lot. And sometimes I just put I I put the phone down and let her talk, and I just have to, catch my breath for a second while she's yapping away on the phone. So her third eye chakra was kind of a little bit wild. So at this point, I got a vision of a past lifetime, which was very, very interesting. It reminded me so much of the Von Trapp family from The Sound of Music. Of course, before they had to leave because of the Nazi takeover. But this was before, if you've seen the movie, you see how cute these children are, and how well behaved, and how well groomed, and how cheerful, and how talented, and how appropriate, and just, they're just exuding great, great energy. um Obedient, but also very, very positive vibrations. And that's what I saw in my client from this past lifetime. It always reminded me of, The Sound of Music. And my client, I saw her like, pretty much like as a 6-year old, and very obedient. It looked like she was being taken care of by a nanny. And I was sort of looking in her aura and seeing that her mother, again, that she came from a wealthy family in this vision, and that her mother was kind of always busy, and she was involved in different things with other wives of important people, and she wasn't around very much. But she when she was around, she was, talking to the nanny and making sure, checking in with my client as a 6-year old and saying, make sure, to the nanny, make sure she's got this and this, and, braid her hair, and make sure that she's, you press her clothes, and everything to the T, and make sure that she gets the food that she likes, and take her out, please, and flowers, and the garden, and maybe a fair, balloons, etc., etc. And what I can see was that her mother was very attractive, tall and statuesque, and had this really beautiful energy. And even though she was not around a lot, um, my client, as a 6-year old in this vision, in this past lifetime, idolized this distant, statuesque goddess, really, of a mother, she couldn't quite connect with, but she worshipped. She was so beautiful, and loved her energy, and the nanny loved her energy as well, and the mother gave that, beautiful energy to the nanny to give to her. So it was a nice kind of transfer of positive vibrations. So at this point, I kind of got the feeling that her mother in this life was her mother in that life. I'm not 100% sure, but I got that sense. And so my client came into this lifetime, and, chose that distant but beautiful and great energy mother from that past Von Trapp family life, and wanted to get closer to her, wanted to get a more complete interaction in this lifetime. What she didn't quite realize was that when her mother was being distant and interacting with the other wives in that Von Trapp family lifetime, she was yapping away, and busy, 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 and organizing and chatting but when she came to look in on her in that lifetime as a 6-year-old, she didn't have much time and she didn't say much, and you really couldn't get a sense that of her real personality, that she was this chatterbox and overbearing and codependent on her friends, the other wives in that lifetime. But when she was talking to the nanny, giving instructions to take care of her in this past lifetime, none of that appeared. So my client as a 6-year-old in their life worshiped her, but she didn't really realize. But now, she came into this lifetime as like, I want to get closer to this distant mother that I worshipped. So, but she got a little bit more than she bargained for. And so now she got the full brunt of her mother's, personality. What I saw was that her mother had this kind of energetic, um, hypnotizing quality. It was really quite extraordinary, because when I tuned into my client in this life and into her emotional body, her second layer, all of a sudden I saw this incredible connection, this energetic connection to her mother that she couldn't quite get away from. She was trying, with love and affection to finally, break the ties. But what I saw was that the mother had this incredible hypnotic pull on her daughter's energy field. When I was starting to untangle, get inside that field, pulling, coming from the mother and pulling the daughter to her, it was beautiful. It was like the strings. It had musical quality. It was like the strings of a harp, and each pluck of the string of the heart had this melody, this beautiful celestial tingling kind of melody. And it also translated to colors and light, and it was like a beautiful royal blue and a beautiful fuchsia, mauve, purple, and some green in there, and some indigo, and it was just beautiful, and so I really understood at this point, what was happening here, that basically the mother had the daughter in this energetic, um, you know, hypnotic state, really controlling her. And then I kind of really started to understand, again, how that energy kept my client sort of immobile. It sort of hypnotized her. She couldn't move. And that's I was looking inside the weight that she's had this kind of like a bottle, and with this big bulbous kind of vase quality to the torso, the belly, and then it wound up to a kind of a petite, warm, gentle face and eyes. So I was looking at the belly area, and I was like, she can't move. She's immobile, and this hypnotic energy is just sort of keeping her still, keeping her from losing the weight, keeping her from moving on with her life, keeping her energetically, every time probably when she meets a man, the man's going, well, she's not really with me. There's another energy pulling her. And so the men sort of feel, that she's not quite with them. And there's she's distracted, so to speak. And indeed, she is distracted. The mother's calling, she's going to call me, et cetera, et cetera. So basically the solution that I was guided to do for this particular healing was to help my client to break that hypnotic energy your vortex energy, this hypnotic energy stranglehold that the mother had, musically surrounded her with all this beautiful musical color energy. And so that's what we did. I basically worked to do my best to sort of substitute, mimic and substitute the mother's harp notes, melody, energy, and I did my best. And then I actually saw the mother kind of being sort of propelled away. It's like she understood. All of a sudden I was sort of breaking that energy lock that she had on her daughter's field. And so that's what we did, is I basically was able to sort of put my client back in her own body. I was able to put her back in her own kind of field, her energy field, and give her a sense of who she is, independent, of this mother energy. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that this is going to translate to her moving on in her life, finding the love of our lives, losing the weight. And I have a feeling that she'll still continue to love her mother and, be a great daughter. I'm sure she's not going to cut the ties, but, at least energetically, she can feel like she's her own person at this point. So, all right.